to put the cookies on the lower shelf, making culture accessible to everybody, it's the combination of three things. It's the values or the principles that we live by. It really is that picture of the future of where we want to go. People call that vision. And it's about purpose. Why do we exist? And when you bring those three things together, our principles and values, that again, this vision of who we want to be and our mission, if you put that in a blender and you mix it up, you pour out what I would call culture. And the way that I would often help people understand that is tell me about where does your discretionary money go? Where do you go on vacation? What do you buy? Because our money is a reflection of our values. For my family, adventure is one of our core values. So I went to Disney World once, we're done, but we've played with lions in South Africa. I caught an eyelash pit viper in Costa Rica. We hiked the Inca Trail into Machu Picchu, took my daughter with me to the Philippines. Why would we do that? Because our vacation is an expression of what's important to us. That's culture. And I know in Rex synopsis, you can tell that we draw from a similar vein, although to me, I don't have four concepts of culture, I have three. One is what I would call, and Rex articulated this, I think Joseph used as well. Virtually all of us personally, those of us that are in families, in businesses, we all have what's called a stated culture. It's what we would like to be true about who we are. And that's like when you get off the elevator and you go into an office or conference room, you see everybody and they're crewing, rowing in the same direction, teamwork or excellence, integrity. But those are Hallmark cards. If they're just something that is aspirational, it's what we would like to be true, but it's not really how we function. How we function, if it's different than stated culture, is shadow culture. Like today, I went to the gym. Why? Because I like to exercise. I'm eating a cookie right now, but it's a healthy cookie because I want my behavior to line up with my value because I value health and wellness. But if I valued health and wellness and sat on the couch and ate potato chips and watched Netflix, that would be shadow culture. And every family is incongruent with their stated values. That's called parenting because we discipline our kids. If we discipline our kids, hopefully we do or have, because their behavior is often misaligned with what we value. Or we give them chores. Well, it's not about washing the dishes. I want them to learn responsibility. Why? Because that's a core value. And when they don't do the dishes and they're gaming, I get upset because I'm looking at shadow culture because it's incongruent with stated culture. And very often in coaching, it's really helpful to help people define what is important to you. What do you want to be true about your life? What behaviors, positive, observable, measurable behaviors would you like demonstrated in your life? That's stated culture. But where are you inconsistent? This goes back to Rex's article around having people take notes when they observe people doing what they liked and they observe people doing what they didn't like. What Rex was saying was find your stated culture. Look for where people are incongruent with what you want to be true. It's called shadow culture. And then to me, in a little more simplistic terms, there's always what's called legacy culture. And legacy culture is we've always done it this way. And legacy culture isn't necessarily good or bad. It just is. Now, sometimes it's not always helpful. We've always done it that way. In a marriage, you discover legacy culture when your partner has a different understanding of how Christmas is done than how you do it. When Marcia and I got married, her family did a big Christmas dinner, Christmas Day. I'm like, are you kidding me? We would do big Christmas dinner, Christmas Eve, open up one present, and then it's pajamas all day in Christmas. Clash of cultures because of how we desired to express a particular holiday. And so we had to come to terms with how are we going to do that? And as a smart husband, we have a big dinner on Christmas Day. And so I think as a coach, our clients often call us because they're incongruent. They're struggling with their shadow culture and they might not even have clarity around their stated culture. They just know that where they are isn't where they want to be. And so to me, Gary, in a coaching conversation, and there's lots of stuff on the internet, you guys, I actually found a really cool app or not an app, it's something online where you can go in and you can answer all these questions and it vets what your values are. I sent that to a client because I'm working with a guy who wants to have a 3 to 5 to 7 year strategic plan. But I said, wait, before we get into, and he's an architect, why don't we start off with what's important to you? And so I send him this website. He goes, Kurt, this is really cool. So there's a lot of resources out there that can help us get at what is important to us. Because to me, that's where we start. And then what's important to us, if we were to live that life out, what would that look like? That's your vision. If a company was congruent with its values, if it accomplished its strategy in 5 years, what's going to be true? And I love Bill Hybels, a pastor. He used to be up in Chicago area. His definition of a vision is a picture of the future that compels a response. I think a lot of people live just too shallow, too thin, not inspirational enough around who they want to be. I had a great coaching session this week with a lady down in San Antonio. I knew her in the FAA, and she's retired now and on her second career. And she's like, "Kurt, I don't meet many people like you that have vision and energy, and you're in your 60s and you're living large." She said, "Most of the people I know just let live," and these are her words, I wouldn't use them, "less of a life." I don't know if my life is more than others, but the idea of do people have a vision for who they want to be in a coaching conversation? I actually have a document, you guys, that 20 some years ago, a therapist gave me. It's 19 questions. I'm happy to share it with you guys. 19 questions that I asked myself. And like one of the questions is, how do you want to use position, power, and money? That's a great question because position, I'm a white male. Power, I own a company. Money, I do pretty well resource wise. How do I want to handle that? And then at the end of the 19 questions, the tool helps you, asks you the question, in light of how you've answered these questions, what's the picture of who you want to be as a person? And literally, I wrote a paragraph. And then below the paragraph, I use a stoplight, green light. Kurt, if you do these 7 to 10 behaviors, you'll become that person. I come from a family of alcoholics. I used to drink some wine. I'm not a liquor person, but just came to realize about 4 years ago, that's just not really healthy for me. It's not helpful. So it was a yellow light behavior. Be careful. And I have boundaries, more than 2 glasses. Don't drink alone. Never drink with clients. But I moved it from yellow light to red light because I thought, you know what? It's just not worth it for me to have an affair, to get hooked on pornography, to steal money from people, to have sex with a client. Crazy stuff that we hear happens all the time. But I have those. Kurt, if you do those behaviors, you will never become that person. And you guys, I read that document every day. Why? Because here's part of what's really important, I think, as a coach. You are your tool. And man, if you're not clear on who you are, what your values are, what your principles are, what's important to you, hey, what does shadow culture look like for you? When am I incongruent with that which is important to me? If I'm a coach, I'm a hypocrite. Are there things that I'm holding on to that I used to do that just are no longer beneficial? Legacy culture? That it's like going through, Marcia and I are empty nesters now. We're purging our house. There's a phrase, I forget what it's called in Swedish. It's called det something, where as parents and grandparents, you purge your house so you don't burden your kids with all the crap that they got to go through once you die. It's a really cool phrase. Marcia and I are doing that. Not that we are wanting to unburden our kids, although I would wish to say we were that nice. We're just get rid of crap because we realize it doesn't have any value anymore. And yet we hold on to it. Now, that's really hard for me because I have lots of tchotchke stuff. I hand raised a hyena. Her name's Scarlet. And so I have a little stuffed animal of Scarlet because I'm into exotic animal rescue. I was like, Kurt, you have a stuffed animal on your shelf and you do Zoom calls? I go, yeah, this is what's important to me. It's part of my stated culture. And I've actually had people say, Kurt, can you move your head? What is that behind you? Oh, it's a hyena. You got a stuffed hyena on your bookshelf? Yeah, because animal rescue is important to me. And we have 450 acres down in Gainesville. It's called Carson Springs, a wildlife preserve. And we rescue, breed, and train. That's something that's a stated culture for me. So I give to it financially. I go to it several years. I go down there and play with the animals. If I said I valued animal preservation, but never did anything about it, that would be shadow culture. And as a coach, I think sometimes we work with people that are wicked intuitive and they can hear us espouse to what we aspire, but they're like, yeah, I feel like when I knock on you, it's veneer, it's not solid wood. And so I think even before we start working with our clients, I think this is stuff for us to wrestle with. And the reason I read my document every day is because I know that I can easily slip into shadow culture. It's really easy for me to give myself a get out of jail free card not to go to the gym. Why? Because I really hate running. Swimming, I love. I swam in college. Bicycling, easy because you can coast if you're tired. But you can't coast when you run, especially if you're on a treadmill. That's called a broken leg. And because I'm doing triathlons, I have to run, which means I have to be on a treadmill. Because if I don't, I'm toast. And I do it with my kids, and I don't want to be embarrassed. And I have to boast, the last couple of races I've done, beating them. I think that's hilarious. And they're 30 years, 33 years younger than me. Anyway, all that to say, so I think this idea of helping our clients understand, look, what is important to you? That's values. What do you want to be true about who you are? That's vision. And when it comes to purpose, I just posted something on LinkedIn about coaching in consulting. And I basically said, coaching is not about helping people become the best version of who they are as an end. A lot of people say that I'm going to help you be the best version of who you are. I'm thinking, okay, why? My personal take is coaching is about becoming the best leader you can be, the best human being you can be, so that then you can go out and make a difference in the world. Because we are wired, I believe, to be on this planet, to be contributors, not consumers. And so to me, there's got to be a grander end than helping somebody make a shitload of money. I'm not ready to get out of bed, help somebody do that. But if I can help you launch a company and that can be financially successful and you take good care of your employees and then you take some of that money and you do something good in the world, dude, I'm in. David Hewitt of Hewlett and Packard said, businesses do not exist to make money. Businesses exist to make a difference. I believe that. So part of my coaching is, look, if you became the best version of who you are, one, what would that look like? And then what are you going to do about it? I sat next to a 12-year-old on the way to Tulsa a couple of years ago. Precocious, engaging, super talkative. I thought, I'll go there. And so I asked him a question. And the question I asked him was different than he goes, nobody's ever asked me that. Most adults, my experience, ask kids, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I think that's a bad question. The question I ask kids is, what problem do you want to solve when you get bigger? Here's what blew me away. This kid said, I want to make better prosthetics for people that have lost a limb, bringing together medicine and computer technology. And his mouth. I'm like, dude, how old are you? 12. Where did you go to school? Bishop Kelly, private school in Tulsa. I know it really well. I said, why is that a vision? And here's what he did. He tapped me on the shoulder. He said, see that guy sitting across from you? Because I was on the aisle seat. This kid was in the middle, Southwest Airlines. He said, that guy over there sitting in the aisle, that's my dad. He has 2 prosthetic legs. He lost them in the military. And I watch him struggle. And I want people like my dad not to struggle. I'm crying. I am now. Back then. Here's a kid who has a vision for what, and he's on a mission. And to me, that's what coaching is about, getting people to become the best version. But I think part of our responsibility as coaches is to ask them, why in the ham sandwich would you want to be? To give them a compelling reason to become the best version of who they are.